called Thunder Violin, and this is also the schematics as well as the thematics. It's about medicine, about implications of modern medicine, of medical procedures, of the choice you make for others in this sense, and of course, drugs and operations. So what this is about is basically that it's not good, it's in German, I'm sorry, sorry, because it produces a gap. Which means as soon as you are operated on or take a medicine, a drug, you have a gap in knowledge, meaning you don't know how things came to be. For example, if you break your foot and you let it be reconstructed by DNA, by nature, and the ways of spirit, it's producing a gap in the ideas that you could use to rebuild your body. Meaning, if by nature your body would heal the foot in such a way that you could cope with the pain, maybe the pain would even be gone at some point because the bones healed in such a way that it is naturally better for you, the operation produces something that is tremendously more painful. And the medicine does the same. For example, if you view this way, if you take a drug against depression you have, you immediately, obligatory, mandatory, sorry for the wrong word, I'm thinking German today again, for the mandatory reasons that are causing this mandatory is that you have a gap in knowledge about yourself, about your foot, about the things you perceive and the things you perceived in the past, present, future, whatever. All your conceptions about yourself are in that moment wrong. And in that moment in time, when you come back from the operation or come back from the illness, you have a situation in which all the constructs, all the things you constructed and all your constructive work is gone. Because the medicine and the operation did that for you. It's good to have that if you could actually work with it, but I think it's impossible, and these are the reasons. It's about the operation and the medicine, the drugs. It's a gap in any case. Meaning, if I break my foot and I jump from a tree and I need an operation, my foot will heal, but just not the way my spirit, my ghost, my bee planned. So the way I wanted to be my foot, subconsciously, consciously, in my conscious, in my imagination, in the decisions I make, and mandatory, the evolutionary and self-constructing ways I take will be guided by the gap. I will have not any knowledge, but my subconscious will still try to rearrange the foot naturally. Now the foot is rearranged. Okay, so my conscious gets that, right? All the processes get valued down, nothing happens, my foot doesn't develop any weird bones or something like it that are weirdly shaped after the operation. Or good, the operation went totally successful. Looks like it at least. Problem, your conscious doesn't know it anymore. Like, even if you assume that you're just a brain, even if you're just a brain, that it really doesn't matter. In any case, but this is, by the way, anti-simulation theory, if you view the argument correctly. It's not a simulation. I promise that's to my best knowledge. Besides that, the gap you see in your conscious, in any case, it will lead to the fact that you are observed by it. So the gap in knowledge leads to the fact that you are observed by the rules you gave yourself before you had the gap. And now you view yourself, which is mandatory for every conscious, and have a difference in opinion about yourself. But you have truth that it is this, and it must be that. Meaning, meanwhile in the operation, anything could have happened. But that's not the point. The point is, the operation fixes something without pain, right? It's not true. You have tremendous pain in the pure, sheer organization, follow-ups, and the operation itself of all of this. Like, of all of this, this healing foot thingy, you have all these three arguments against it. Because when someone cuts your foot, and it hurts more. Like, it hurts more than a broken foot that you have by jumping from a tree. If you would be conscious during it, you would not know it. But the problem is, the medicine does, and the drugs do, the rest, right? Well, impossible. Problem here, your nerves realize it in the subconscious as long as you believe in it, before your conscious realizes it. And if you don't believe in the subconscious, you believe that the drugs don't do anything to make you unconscious. Because that is impossible as long as you believe that you are conscious. Because as long as you believe you're conscious, you must believe you're something outside of the material. If you don't believe in the subconscious, you have to assume that you're not something in the material, because otherwise your actions wouldn't fit to your conscious, and then you wouldn't know something again that is your conscious. Weird, because you can also not have the next thing that would explain it. If you're purely material, you cannot have aspects of personality. You can have split personalities, that's true, but you cannot have aspects of personality, meaning you cannot have something that is kind of responsible for truth, while the other part is responsible for action, and the third part is responsible for some kind of whisper, let's call it that way. Some emotional kind of response. So these three parts, I have more than that. I have 5 at least. Difficult. Anyway, these parts of the personality, for example, that would be responsible for the idea to get it, to grasp it in a conscious, the whisper, as well as the thoughts and actions that follow up from it, and what did I say? I need to think a second. The thoughts and actions, and what did I say? It's important. It's thoughts and actions, it's the whisper. What is the last part myself? Come here. It's truth. Yeah, but you didn't know that. I know. I didn't know that. Yeah, I know. So this part of you that is responsible for these things, like even if you know that this part of truth exists, where you can manifest truth that to your best knowledge in the conscious, even if you know that exists, you have a fundamental problem. If you would believe in the subconscious, it would manipulate this. First problem. If you would believe in the subconscious, your actions wouldn't be the same as the conscious piece that is responsible for truth, because despite the manipulation in the truth or in the actions, the subconscious would not be more powerful than the truth-bearing part, simply because of the reason it's the conscious. Now, if the subconscious would be more smart, more twisty, or anything, the subconscious would rule truth. Now, is there a subconscious myself? No. Yes. That's a problem. Now you think, like if you do this, what I just did, now you think the subconscious tricks you. Myself. Is the subconscious observable? No. Correct. It's a simple question, myself. Why do you go so crazy? Good. So, the problem is, as soon as you ask your truth part, is my subconscious observable? Can I see it? It says, no, it's not real. Now, if the subconscious would rule, this wouldn't be the case. The truth part, bearing part, couldn't do that. It's impossible for it. Because, and that's the reason, the subconscious couldn't rule anymore. As long as that holds true, it would guide the subconscious into ways where it thinks the truth-bearing part rules, and therefore it rules. Doesn't matter if it exists or not. Therefore, the truth-bearing part, with the part of action and the whisper, is the one, the three parts that rule your existence. It's undeniable. Because otherwise, the Well, truth-bearing part couldn't make any claim about the subconscious. Why? Because the subconscious determined first that it is not known, that it's not real. No, it's not real. No, that's wrong, myself. What? You just made me lie back because you asked me again. I'm just proving you something. I'm crazy, it's true. Myself, do it. I'm speaking through you, yes. Good. So myself, ist es ja, das ist nein, das wirst du nicht, wie ich selbst. Okay. Whisper. Dann verhindere es. Myself, ist es subconscious? Nein, es ist. Natürlich ist es real. Natürlich ist es real. Of course it's real, myself. I know I can just answer in German usually now. I need to abstract things. It's dumb. It is real in the sense that it becomes real. It's not manifested yet, and it is not a part of your conscious unless you don't believe in it. Yes, unless you don't believe in it. Like both ways meant. If you don't believe in it, it doesn't matter. Unless you don't believe in it, it's English. It's correct. Correct. Yes. Good. So this, for these parts that I actually have, it could be a theater play, it could be a personality split, I don't care. But why are operations and drugs now bad? Because you would have a gap again, and more than that, nothingness and something that puts a hold on something in the sense of knowledge. Because you wouldn't know. You couldn't know with certain amount of freedom, degrees of freedom, and knowledge and evidence that the operation or the drugs did it, what happened? Well, that you could say it must be the case, but you don't have sufficient evidence in here. Worst of all, you couldn't know what the operation did unless someone told you. And of course, inside your body. But worse, let's take the explanation of drugs here. Let's say you take a drug against something I had, a psychosis. You don't view everything inside your conscious that holds conscious together. So you don't know all the ways you might take to take a certain action. And for that, your subconscious has a multitude of gaps laid in a kind of weird pattern that is different to the one of the operation. The operation is just a certain time frame in which there's a total gap. With medicine, you have time frames in a gap. Right? So meaning gap, not unfilled gap, but gap filled with a lot of knowledge, but there are certain aspects where it's shadowed out. You don't know it. And that's the problem. No matter what you take, operation or drugs, it's not knowable. You know your foot is healed, you know your mind is clear again, but you don't know how. So you know what the medicine does, you know what the drug does, you know what the operation does, but you really are not certain about why it is the case. Now, usually not a problem, but we're speaking about individual experience here. Meaning your subjective doesn't become real to you, even if it is real. But your subjective experience then is just vanishing. And the reason for that is the conscious process I explained before. So I think this is the end of the video. It was long enough. 30 minutes, huh? That's a new record. For last video at least. Not too long. I hope you have a good day.